Hi everyone, finally back in the studio after a really long summer, and I want to start with experimenting a bit. And during my break I had lots and lots of creative ideas pop into my head, and I just couldn't wait to get back into my studio and try them out. And so for the first one, I've had this idea to make a mold of my Coco Chanel perfume bottle and then cast it in ceramic resin for my room diffuser collection. And if you've seen any of my previous videos on molding, you will have seen all the clever ways that you can create molding frames to contain the object in. And then for this example, I've decided to use Lego bricks since the perfume bottle is cube shaped, and I'm going to make it a tight fit so I don't waste too much rubber silicone. Just a little tip, do make sure that you leave enough of a margin on all the sides so that the mold is strong enough. And then the best way to stick this down is double-sided tape, and I also added some tape to the inside of the frame just to prevent any seepage. And then all you have to do is stick the whole thing down on top of the double-sided tape and then stick down your original object with more tape so that it doesn't float up. And then just leave it to cure overnight or a couple of hours if it's a hot day outside. And unfortunately I lost the footage of me pouring the rubber on the top, but you get the idea. You just pour on the top, fill it up to the top, and then leave it to cure. And for this I'm using my usual Let's Resins rubber silicone. It's a 1:1 ratio. You mix equal parts of part A and B using a weight, so an electric scale. It's not by volume, it's by scale. You mix the two together for about 2 or 3 minutes, much like you would do with resin, and then you can pour on the top. So this is the next day, and I am going to unmold. And it's pretty simple when you're using these Lego bricks. You just need to pull them off one by one. And then once you've done that, you can just pull the bottle out. You might need to actually cut the top bit off where the lid is. So just use a little scalpel and just do a little slit. And then the perfume bottle should just pop out. And there it is, all ready to cast. And this rubber silicone really does pick up every fine little detail. You can even see the label that's been replicated there. I'm not sure that's going to come out in the ceramic resin, but it doesn't matter, it's there. And that just proves how detailed this rubber silicone is. So now it's time for me to mix my ceramic resin. You know the drill, you've seen all my other videos. You mix the powder and the water, mix it up. If you want any colouring in this, I'm going to do just plain white for the moment, and then add a little bit of pink later. So you can use mica powder, you can use water-based paints such as watercolour or gouache. So I'm trying to pour in here all the white, and then I changed my mind and I decided that I actually wanted it to be more pink than white. So I'm just going to pour it back into the bowl, making a mess as I go along, why not? And then I'm going to add my pigment. And I like to start slowly with my pigment, adding little by little and building up the colour. And there, I think that's great. I like that tone of pink, so I'm going to pour most of it in and just leave that little bit of white at the bottom, and it will give a nice cute marbled effect. And because this is the first time I've used this mold, I'm just going to tap it, make sure it gets into all the corners. so that there are no air bubbles, and actually I didn't get any at all, so this was a pretty successful pour. And then you will need to leave this to set for 30 minutes. So I'm using Let's Resin's ceramic resin, and I will leave all the links down for you below under this video. And if you're not sure how to do that, this is how you do it. You go underneath the video. You'll need to probably go on your computer or on your laptop or on your phone to be able to do this, and you just click more and you'll see all the details, and you'll be able to directly click on the link and then you can purchase, and the discount code will be just above that, so don't miss out on saving a little bit of money. A little goes a long way when it comes to economizing at the moment, so yeah, don't forget my code. And sometimes I use this little gadget. This is a back massager, and it vibrates, and it's great for using this for the more intricate molds that you may have. Make sure they get all into the little nooks and the crannies. And because I had some leftover ceramic resin, I'm just going to pour these 2 little flower molds. And then I'm going to let this completely cure for half an hour. Right, I'm back, and now it's unmolding time, and just look how quickly and easily that little bottle came out. And I must say, I was so pleased with this. I can't wait to make so many more in different colors, different tones. And I will be adding a little vinyl sticker on the front just to replicate the Coco Chanel perfume bottle label. So you'll see that at the end with the glamour shots. And now it's just time to unmold these 2 matching flowers. And what I will probably do is sell these together in the same box. So they match. They're nice to have 2 different ones, and sometimes you can have like a little display of these room diffusers. So you'll be able to spray the perfume bottle and your little flowers next to it. And so here it is with a lovely gold vinyl label on, which I did with my Cricut machine, or well, actually I have a silhouette portrait, so I did it with that. I also have an X-Tool M1, you can do it with that too. And yeah, hope you like that one. So experiment number 2. Now, experiment number 2 is something I've been trying to do for a long time. I have some molds that have like a sort of a base of a crystal cluster on them, and I thought that it would be the perfect experiment to use this turquoise epoxy resin. And so this is pre-mixed, pre-colored. No, it's not pre-mixed, it's just pre-colored, excuse me, pre-colored. So it's a turquoise color, and it gives like a really lovely transparent effect. So it's perfect for those molds that have like the druzy base, the little crystal bases on them. So with this mold that I have, it's an agate slice mold. I had some leftover crystal, very fine, thin crystal base, and I've just cut it to shape. And then I've got these 2 others that are integrated, and the idea is to create one of those. So I've got the crystal one in the middle, and the ones on the right and the left already are integrated into the mold, so you don't need to put the actual base down on it. So the idea here is just to mix up some resin, and it's already colored blue. It's a lovely turquoise blue, and I actually really love this color, and it turned out perfectly well for this application. You'll see a little later on. But before I do this, I was thinking, because I'm using crystals, and I do have a little crystal cluster there you can see just in between the 2 on the right, I'm going to use a new gadget machine, and I'll show you that in a minute. And you've probably seen me use it before, but it's to get rid of bubbles. And it's really indispensable when you're making crystal clusters or even these crystals. coasters, that you get rid of as many micro bubbles as you can. Otherwise it just looks a little dull and a little opaque, and what you want is a crystal clear. So this is from Resiners. This is their new airless bubble-free machine. And this will be the first time I've used it, and I'm going to use it with you. And to make a little experiment, I'm going to keep some of the original unmixed to the side. You saw me pouring it in that little cup there. And I am going to use this airless machine just to do the rest. And so what this will do is it will vacuum out all the air. And with that, it did take quite a while. So this worked really well with this particular resin. There are some resins that are a little bit thicker, more dense, and that might take longer. So that you'll find that at the end you might get a little bit of a thermal reaction starting, and it's starting to cure and get hot in the pot. So my best advice for you is to just use a little at a time. So don't put a big amount of resin in the cup, just a little. So you can see by the end of it, it is crystal clear. It's just a one-step action. You just put the lid on and press the button at the top. And then to extract the air, just do what I'm doing there, which is just taking that little rubber off. And then I found the hardest thing about this process was getting the lid off, but then I got it off. And you'll see how crystal clear this is compared to that little cup on the right. So there are a couple of surface bubbles, that's normal. You can just zap that with a torch lighter. And then if you can see the one that I poured before, I used the airless machine, and there are lots and lots of micro bubbles. So for the test, I'm going to pour some of the ones that have been airless into one of these pop socket molds, and then I'm going to use another one of these molds, and I'm going to pour the one that hasn't been airless, the one with the micro bubbles, and we'll see what that gives once it's cured. And onto my crystal cluster. So the trick with this is, because we've taken all of the micro bubbles out, you need to pour really slowly and low down so that there are no more bubbles getting created. But as you can see, what I'm doing here is there are just a couple of surface bubbles. I'm just going to pop those before I carry on pouring. And be careful, you don't want to burn your resin, as I almost did there. So just pour low and slow. And now to use up the rest of that resin there, I'm going to pour this into this mold with the crystal druzy effect on the base. And for a little bit of fun, I am going to add some lovely ornaments inside of this. And because it's blue turquoise, I thought I'd go with the beach theme. So lots of shells, lots of these lovely crushed glass bits and baubles, and these gorgeous aquamarine shells that I've all got from Laura's Art Corner. And I'll leave all the links, as I explained before, down below for you with a discount code. So now is the most relaxing part of the process, where you just add the stones and the glitter bits and all the fun bits. And yeah, I don't have any music on at the background, but I usually have my AirPods on, and I'm listening to something, maybe a podcast, maybe some music, and just enjoy the process. And because I had a little bit of resin left over, I have taken the smaller one. I've added it to the left with the same shells and aquamarine shells inside as well. And I just found some of these gold mica flakes, so I'm adding them to the top. And then I've mixed up a little bit more resin. This is clear resin. And in this particular one, I've added just a tiny bit of transparent white. And I'm just going to use it up and put it on the top for sort of a two-tone effect. And then because I had some clear left over, this is my second experiment, and it's a 2-in-1 experiment. I wanted to see if I could use this. Oops, never mind. Ooh, that's not good. But well, I'll use it up from the table. I'm not going to waste any of that. So I am going to be using glass paint, and I wanted to see if this would give that lovely transparent colour. So I'm looking for a green here. No particular reason. I'm just going to make a blank mold. So what I'm trying to do is replicate the same mold that I've just used in the background there with the base. So I'm just going to mix up a lovely sort of light green colour, and I'm going to use the airless machine once again to get rid of any of those bubbles. And then if you saw before, I added the druzy silicone sheet at the bottom, and I'm just going to pour straight on the top. I'm not going to add any embellishments because I want this to be a blank, so I want it to be as flat as possible. And the idea is that I can peel the background off, which I will do the next day once it's fully cured. But before I do that, I am going to unmold my crystal cluster. And I must tell you, I absolutely loved the effect. And to be honest, I've tried this without the airless, and I'm not getting paid to sell the airless, but full disclosure, I was given the machine to try out, and I knew that if it worked, it would be perfect use for my crystal clusters. And as you can see there isn't any micro bubbles at all. And you'll see with the example, with a little experiment that I did, this one on the right is done with the airless, and there is not one single bubble there except for a little bit of dust that fell in the top there. And once I take out the other one, which I did not use the airless, I just poured it in straight, you can already see how many bubbles there are. But then if you look to the right where I place it more in the dark, you can see all of the micro bubbles. So compared to the one that I used the airless with and the one that I didn't, there is a huge difference. So yeah, the machine does do what it says it will do. It gets rid of the micro bubbles as long as you let it sit in the actual machine long enough. And yeah, so I'm pretty pleased with that. And now onto my fun coastal coaster. So love this one, love this one, and I wanted to see what this mold would look like with this pre-colored epoxy, and it's a gorgeous color and the stones came out lovely. I just love it. I have to do a whole set in this. It's stunning, and it goes perfectly well with that crystal cluster. And of course, when you mix some more up of this, you will always get the same tone because it is pre-colored. So if you'd add it yourself, you might get a darker blue or a lighter blue, but in this case you won't. And then this was my other experiment. This was the 2-in-1 experiment, making my own colored, sort of a transparent colored resin using glass paint, and it worked. The color stayed, it didn't dissipate, didn't evaporate. And then I'm just going to take this druzy mold base off the bottom of this, and then this will give me basically a blank in which I can then do what I did in the first half of this video, is pour some silicone rubber over the top and create my own crystal druzy mold. And of course you could do this same system with any mold that you have, any shapes that you have, as long as you have a druzy crystal sheet, and you can just place it or cut it around to the shape of your mold, and there. So for the last one, I was going to put a clear top coat on the top of it, but I thought this was just an experiment just to see what it would look like, so it doesn't really matter that it's not right up to the top. I'm really eager to see what this came out like, and it came out really pretty. So, and since I had some left over, I mean, it's never a waste, and experimenting is all part of the process. So hopefully you've learned something today. Maybe you've been inspired to do your own experiments, and I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.